Welcome once again to another episode of The Catholic View for Women here on EWTN Global Catholic Television. And it's a program for and about women, news and views from a truly Catholic perspective. Good to be with you, along with my co-host, Astrid Bene-Gutierrez and Janet Morana. Now, in this program, we're going to continue our discussion on what we're calling, ladies, weird science. In the last segment, we talked about selective reduction and also in vitro fertilization. And this show, it's going to be a little bit, it's very difficult to talk about, but it's something that needs to be discussed. We're talking about another way in which women are being objectified and used out there in the culture, and this is something that really is weird science.
That's right.
We're talking about egg harvesting.
Egg harvesting, that's right. Well, you know, I have something here, Teresa, just, you know, because a lot of people might say egg harvesting, what are you talking about? So I thought first, let's just take our viewers through what we're talking about, okay? So every true feminist should be up in arms at the prospect of women being exploited for science, many being offered large sums of money so that new human lives can be created and then destroyed for research material. Here are some of the important facts you need to know to understand why this procedure is just one step down the slippery slope of devaluating human life. Okay, here's how it works. The average woman only produces 1 egg a month. In order to maximize the efficiency of collecting eggs, female donors go through a process called hyperovarian stimulation. Hyperovarian stimulation is a painful procedure in which a woman is required to take large doses of hormones over a period of 1 month.
Oh my goodness.
Okay, then the hormones, what they do is they overstimulate her ovaries into producing approximately 10 to 12 eggs. The eggs are then extracted by a long needle. The gathered eggs are then used for the IVF or for the therapeutic purposes, and in many cases they're frozen until they're needed.
Right.
I mean, that's basically how that works. Now, first of all, high doses of hormones, of course we covered in our other shows what that does to women. It's risk for cancer, ovarian cancer, liver cancer, breast cancer. I mean, we already covered this in a previous program. Right. And so now women who are going through this egg harvesting because of, many of them because of money, are actually putting their own health at risk.
So what happens, what could happen to their own fertility after that?
Well, here we go. Again, this is straight from the scientific journals. I got this, okay? Here we go. The dangerous effects of egg harvesting on women's health and their future fertility. Here's how it explains it. Hyperovarian stimulation can result in many negative side effects, most especially a condition known as ovarian hyperstimulation syndrome, or commonly known as OHSS, can result, and this is what it can cause: ovarian cysts, massive fluid buildup and abdominal pain, infertility, and in some cases, even death. Amazing. Studies in Italy and the United Kingdom suggest that at least 1 in 10 women suffer from some form of OHSS. So if 1 in 10 are suffering from this, then how many women are then going down this road of egg donation? Think about that.
Wow.
Okay. The typical drug used to stimulate egg development, called Nupron, is only approved by the FDA for use in prostate cancer, not egg extraction. Now it's okay, so they're taking a drug approved by the FDA for something else, prostate cancer, and giving it to women for this egg extraction. You think there's a problem there?
Now,
right?
in terms of the women, Astrid, you said you had a story related to this that you wanted to share with us.
Indeed. You know that I counsel women that are in crisis pregnancy in a very poor neighborhood that is attacked by the abortion industry. 9 abortion clinics are there. But this egg harvesting, it's also a very lucrative business.
Oh,
the profit is a huge factor in why people are doing this. Now, this egg harvesting is being promoted to poor women and to college-age women. Now, I was counseling a young woman. She was in her early 20s, had a small child, and she was pregnant and contemplating abortion. And one thing she told me was, you know, I think that abortion is the best thing for me, and after I have my abortion, I'm going to consider egg harvesting. I really need the money. Now, thanks be to God, you know, she changed her mind after all of this. But when she first said that, what came to my mind was this poor woman. She doesn't seem to understand her dignity and how precious she is to God. Maybe nobody ever told her, you know, just that she's worthy of respect, that her body is sacred. And you know, I think that after the crisis, she changed her life around. But I think that it is a temptation for a lot of women to go this route, and they do not know all the harm that is involved, and that this egg can be used to create embryos that can later be discarded, and they have no idea what is going to happen, but their heart is probably telling them something. So we have to illuminate the facts.
Are you seeing this in your area, because you work in the middle of an area where it's
LA's abortion
right?
ground zero.
Yeah. So you're seeing a lot of this, hearing more about these types of things.
Hearing more about it as a way for women that are desperate. A lot of them immigrant women, desperate because of poverty. It's an easy way for them to make $5,000, $10,000, but at what cost? I mean, to their health. They have no idea. This can cost them their fertility or even their life.
Now, when they go, Janet and Astrid, have you heard from women that you talked to this one woman that came into your facility, but when these women are going, God forbid, for these horrible, weird type science procedures, are they being informed of the side effects and what's going to happen? Dangling this money, what is it? You said between $5,000 and $10,000 sometimes that they get for this?
And even higher. I mean, I have evidence here in an article that states, I'll give you a few examples here. It says, for example, the average price, first of all, it says here that just type in egg donor in the internet. You'll come up with a number of websites that advertise egg donors of a particular age, race, intelligence, appearance, pictures, SAT scores, athletic abilities. And this is not for science experiments now. This is for prospective egg recipients, all right? This is for going back to your IVF. For couples who say a woman doesn't have enough eggs to be harvested for IVF, then they go for egg donors. And now it becomes this competitive thing about they want to pick out the designer baby. The designer baby. And here it goes. The average price women are paid for their eggs vary. A typical first-time donor can receive as little as $4,000 to as much as $80,000 or more, depending on the types of characteristics the donor couple are seeking.
Oh my goodness.
And here's even better. College, which we're going to have later a witness to this, advertisements flood college campuses promising large sums of money to students for eggs. Human eggs gathered from women between the ages of 18 and 25 are the healthiest and most efficient eggs to work with.
Well, $80,000 to a woman who's struggling through college, working a part-time job, is a ton of money.
A ton.
I mean, that could help you. That could pay for the rest of half of your schooling, depending on where you're going to school.
I mean, I have 3 daughters. They're still paying off their college loans. Thanks be to God. You know, they didn't do this or didn't even know about it. But imagine the girls that are being exploited. Like you're saying, poor women in the ghetto, but then women in college campuses. And this SAT score thing is a real killer. I mean, what they're saying here is, so the students that are in the dean's list probably are the ones that these people who are, kind of trying to attract them. Oh, come on, be an egg donor because you've got all the top quality eggs now because you're a dean student or you're this, you're that. Or what about the athletes on these college campuses, these star basketball players, football players? So now they're being, told that, you could donate sperm even. I mean, I've heard of this too. It is absolutely crazy. It's manufacturing babies for couples who can't have children so they can get the perfect child. It's really scary.
It is really weird science. Let's go to the soundbite. Why don't you set it up for us, because you work with Mary Kaminsky.
Yeah, Mary Kaminsky, she's been on some of our other programs. She works in campus ministry, and we just asked her about egg harvesting. And let's hear what Mary had to say about what goes on her campus.
In many of the college newspapers today, you will find articles on egg donation for anywhere from $10,000 and up for a single donation. And a young college girl, many of these girls are working, they don't have the money, they're putting themselves through college, they see this $10,000 total, and they just say, oh, yeah, I'll do that, I'll sign up. They have no idea about the dangers that are going to be, put upon them physically. They're not even thinking that an egg is, really part of them, that a child, potential child is involved here in the egg donation, and they're not thinking of how they're going to feel later on. Say something goes wrong. You've got hormones being pumped into your body. Today we're so concerned about, eating organic food, drinking natural water, but yet we're pumping ourselves with all these hormones inside to, make our body manufacture eggs. It's not a natural process for money. And what are we doing? We're selling our children, and this is all good. So it's a very, very scary thing that women just are not educated on at all. And of course, the colleges that are putting this information in the newspaper and the hospitals that are taking part in this, they're just about the money, which is part of the big problem anyway. So.
Well, what Mary said is really upsetting to know that your young women on college campuses, and parents beware, that your daughter's off at college, and this temptation might be she might be falling prey to it. You never
And don't
know.
they advertise a lot in college newspapers and
Yeah,
campuses?
that's what I said.
going targeting
Since I've been in
newspaper.
college,
Yeah.
I've seen it in the papers, and it's very attractive to see that huge dollar sign and that amount that you're being offered. When you're really stressed out,
Right.
you don't know how you're going to pay your rent or tuition. That's a very enticing thing, and the girls don't know what it entails.
Yeah, and Mary had told me that they really amp up the advertisement because they know when it's time to register for the next semester, when you have to sign for your student loans, when you have to do all that. They know the time of year, the weeks in the semester when this happens. And she said that it's like an assault on campus. And she's in a secular college in
Right.
New Jersey.
Right.
And she said it's astonishing that they know the schedule, they know the flow, and here the ads will crop up all over the place because they know these kids are maybe being denied, grant money or this and that, and they're not going to have enough, and now I can't register. You know how I mean, if you don't have enough money and your parents can't afford it and you don't pay the check by here, then you don't register, you lose your classes. So imagine the pressure. Boom, ad. Earn $10,000. Oh, there's my money. And no one is telling them about the side effects, Irene. It's kind of like the woman who has the abortion and the only child she's ever conceived is that child when she stepped onto that abortionist table and she never, when she wants to have a children, she can't.
Right.
Well, these women who are being hoodwinked into egg donation, the only child they were ever to have will be those eggs they lost.
And they're thinking, I'm just going to do this now to get me through
Get me
college.
through
I can get my
college.
degree, and then I can move on, get married, and have a family. But God
Exactly.
forbid they might not.
And
even
I'm just giving up a few eggs now. What's the big deal? You know?
All right. Well,
It's
we're going to take a
tragic.
break, and then when we come back, we'll have more to talk about. But also, I think on a positive note, we're going to take a look at what the church has to say about this. And the church has beautiful teachings that really uphold our dignity from, of course, conception until natural death. Thanks again for tuning in to The Catholic View for Women. We have much information on our website at thecatholicviewforwomen.com, links to various articles and documents. And, of course, you can like us on Facebook, and we appreciate it if you would stop by. Again, CatholicViewForWomen.com. We'll be right back on this edition of The Catholic View. Stay tuned. Welcome back to our show, The Catholic View for Women. I'm Teresa Tomeo, along with my co-hosts Astrid Bennett Gutierrez and Janet Morana. Continue our discussion on weird science. And ladies and gentlemen, we are talking weird and just so sad what's happening out there. Stories that are not getting out in the secular press, and this is why we're trying to cover these on The Catholic View for Women. We also want to give you the opportunity to see what our incredible Holy Mother Church has to offer us as women. The church teachings always upholding our true dignity and the dignity of every person from the moment of conception until natural death. Let's take a look at what the church has to say about all this weird science.
Absolutely. From the Catechism of the Catholic Church, techniques involving only the married couple, homologous to artificial insemination and fertilization, are perhaps less reprehensible, yet remain morally acceptable. They disassociate the sexual act from the procreative act. The act which brings a child into existence is no longer an act by which two persons give themselves to one another, but one that entrusts the life and identity of the embryo into the power of doctors and biologists and establishes the domination of technology over the origin and destiny of the human person. This is indeed what is happening, the incredible violation of the human person, of the couple, of something that God created as something so beautiful and sacred. And now, this kind of truth can be definitely introduced in the college campus, and it is being done by so many wonderful groups. Groups such as the Anscombe Society, Love and Fidelity are shedding light on these truths, because I think the college woman that is being attacked is being denied the truth, because the universities are teaching what the culture of death teaches. So thank God for these groups that are highlighting the truth, and also not only the physical, but also the emotional devastation of these attacks on human
Yeah, if
life.
you think about what young women in college campuses are facing these days, I mean, I graduated college in 1981. I know you're younger than us. What year did you graduate undergrad?
1974?
1974, okay. But
So this kind of stuff wasn't even.
no. And it was bad when we were going to college
Yeah.
because the sexual revolution and radical feminism
and
was
all
taking
that,
foot, but
yeah.
nothing like this.
I
So
went to college 20 years ago, and it was already happening.
was
So
it?
it's been
Was it already
around,
happening?
yes.
But you've got that. You've got this out of control sexual, promiscuity that's going on, or freedom, what they like to call it. You've got so many things with experimentation. It's just, this is why it's really important, and a reminder why before you send your kids off to college, even if it's a Catholic college, we talked about this earlier in the
Yes.
show with the young women episode that we had.
Right.
That, and you're the mom of 3 girls.
3 daughters,
Three
right.
daughters, that you ground them in the faith.
Right. Yeah, because I mean, I 3 daughters, and let's see, 2 went to Catholic college, 1 went to secular, and really, just because they went to a Catholic college doesn't mean
No guarantees.
no guarantees. They were still like Kathleen on a previous episode said, they were still partying, drinking, frat parties, and all that still happen. I mean, there's a campus ministry office there, and they have mass maybe a couple times a week or on a holy day, but it's really not emphasized. And if you really went on campus, you really wouldn't know it was a Catholic college. There's a cross here and there in a classroom, but that's about
Right.
it.
And if a young woman has a vision of what kind of family she wants, she sees her womb as something sacred and beautiful and wants to aspire to something like a family, marriage, this doesn't compute anywhere near, her vision for her life. And you also learn to trust God and find other ways to make money. And God provides one way or another. There's no need to resort to this. And it's so devastating. And again, women can lose their lives
Right.
with this kind of thing. And they will not be told just the same way. It's very similar to what happens when you go to an abortion clinic. The less they tell you in these places, the better, because they want the money.
That's right.
Bottom line.
Well, it's kind of like when you send your kids off to college, you kind of need to say, like, what should I be telling them about? Because let's face it, we don't hear homilies from the pulpit about the dangers of egg harvesting and how it's against the church's teaching. But I think what you have to do is take the information, like I read earlier, about the side effects and the problems, and just have a discussion. Like, people ask me, like, with abortion and post-abortion healing, how do you bring up these topics, with your children? And I usually say, listen, just say, I was at a church meeting, or I was this thing, or I picked up a newspaper and someone told me, and tell them, I read this article about egg harvesting, and I looked a little bit further. And do you realize all the complications, and they're exploiting young women? Have that discussion with them before they go off to college, so that if temptation comes their way, or if they even hear of a dorm friend who is going to go down this road, then they're empowered with the information to maybe stop their dorm mate from doing this egg donation, because they can also be an advocate on that campus to kind of help stop this and prevent a woman from being harmed.
You have a couple of other quotes you wanted to share with us, Janet, don't you?
I read them all.
Oh, did you? I thought, okay, I thought there was another one.
Gave you them all.
There's so much information out there, but is it getting out, do you
Right.
think?
It's not. It's really not. And unfortunately, what really happens is, especially on the science side of this, it's, like with stem cell and all that, it's being reported as being a way of helping science to cure diseases. So, for example, one of my daughters is a type 1 diabetic. She's a real diabetic. She's on an insulin pump. She's only in her early 30s. She's been this way since she was about 17. So it's sad. And there's many young people, even younger than her, like this. And so very often they'll take a disease like diabetes. It's so common all over the country. So everyone knows a diabetic, right?
Right.
And so they'll say, this egg harvesting, and then we can create the stem cell lines, and then we can maybe find a cure for diabetes. It really tricks people into thinking that this is something good. So in addition to the procreative part where they're petri dishing and donor egging and all this other stuff for athletes and super people, super babies, the other side is they're toying with these women's emotions to say, well, you have a sister who's a diabetic. If you donate your eggs, it's helping maybe to find a cure for her. So besides the money part, there's a sympathy angle to this. You understand? So they're trying to make people realize you're doing something good for society. And because that's what these ads do. They just don't talk about the money, but they talk about it as being almost a heroic act, for society. And they'll list
For helping a family who's couple who's infertile or whatever, yeah.
But also helping the scientists who want to find cures for all these diseases. And let's face it, a young, well-meaning college woman could be trapped into this, especially if she has a family member that's suffering from a disease. She might say, well, this is
something I'm doing, this is for the good of
I
society.
heard one place, Teresa, where they equated this with giving blood. with giving blood. Okay, now we know giving blood is a life-saving thing. They come on college
It's
campuses,
necessary.
Right.
and it's necessary. But when they play on the scientific end for curing diseases because of the stem cell experimentation, they make it sound like that this would be a way you can help get rid us of these different diseases.
Sometimes, I know that in my home state of Michigan, sometimes when these efforts to fund embryonic stem cell research and what come up, sometimes these stories get out there. And we had an amendment a few years ago that went before the voters, and we have a very pro-life community. I mean, state in Michigan, it's very active. But it didn't pass. They couldn't come, get enough support to go against it, I should say. But within that, the concern that was brought out about how women were being objectified by all these different things, because within the whole funding of embryonic stem cell research, these things, and that's what it's important for people to do, to connect the dots. Because you're not just looking at egg harvesting separately. You're not just looking at selective reduction separately or in vitro fertilization. It all goes together, because once you go down that slippery slope,
where does it take you?
Where does it take you?
A lot of high school students and college students are reading a secular book called Brave New World by Aldous Huxley. And if they've read it, you can help them connect that, are we not already there? And it's much worse. It's what Pope Paul VI has prophesied, that we, in fact, are going to manipulate human beings, use them for our own purposes.
For machines. We said our bodies will be used in machines.
Exactly.
Machine Humana Vitae.
Exactly. So then allow our young people to look, to dig deeper, share this hidden side of the reality of what egg harvesting is, in vitro fertilization, all of these things which harm the human being. They do not uphold, uplift, or really cure anything. They create new problems.
Well, I mean, here's a medical fact, just another interesting thing. There are about 17 million Americans with diabetes, and it has been estimated that you would need 170 million to 1.7 billion human eggs would be necessary to help treat them all with their own genetically matched cells. That's even if this would work to cure a disease.
So no wonder there's such a push to, exactly, to advertise and to get these young women to, oh my goodness.
Absolutely.
Now we do have some homework, and we have about 3 minutes left, so why don't we go over the homework assignment, Janet?
All right, well, first of all, we want them to, again, read, and we're going to have discussion questions on the website for Dignitatis.
Oh, and that's the other thing. Let's remind the women of the discussion questions, because we want them to read the questions, but this would be great for a group discussion.
Right.
Especially, let's say, if there's a mother-daughter that's involved in one of our group discussions.
Exactly.
That would be a really good
And what I think, Teresa, we need to take this to the women's groups that exist already within your parish. We're not asking, you don't have to form a separate group, but just because this could be a topic of discussion. Yes. And so we have with Dignitatis Personae and, of course, Donum Vitae, we will have discussion questions that delve into this deeper. We're also going to highlight the passages from Humana Vitae where Pope Paul VI was warning us and showing us going down this road where it would end.
Don't you ever think, every time I think of this, I think of the old, who was it, the Will Robinson, warning, warning, danger approaching. I mean, there's so much danger here. I just want to put up this big sign that says, danger, do not enter. I mean, it's just, this is scary stuff.
It's scary stuff, and it's going on all over the country, in every state here in the United States. Do not think that your little state is exempt from this. It's going on. And then finally, we're going to re-highlight the passages in the Catechism, which we'll have on the website. And of course, with all this frustration and everything we do, we have to say we turn to our Blessed Mother, the really model for all women to look to for spiritual strength, to not to go down these roads. And of course, we have our beautiful symbol, the Madonna of the Kitchen, which we've been highlighting on all our programs. She is a great inspiration, really, to have in your home, in your kitchen. And for the college students, that we're talking about these women being exploited, every dorm room has a hot plate or a microwave. And the Madonna of the Kitchen can be right there to maybe
the
inspire
Madonna of the
them.
microwave.
And if your mama's watching, what does your mother always say?
The Blessed Mother is watching you.
That's right. Rosie always says that.
That's
and so if the Blessed Mother's watching, hopefully you'll be protected. Say your daily rosary and pray that this weird science does not enter into your home or to attack to your daughters. And as a mother of 3 daughters, thanks be to God, my daughters have not been exposed to this. They didn't do it, but you never know. It could happen to anybody, it really can.
And that's why it's important to bring these topics to discussion at the table.
It really is.
Really. Thanks so much. You guys are just wealth of information. Really hope you are learning something from these programs. That's why we're trying to really dive deeply into some of these topics and do, 2 versus 1 show on something as scary as, weird science, because it's affecting women greatly in so many different areas. Thanks for tuning in to the Catholic View for Women. As Janet and Astrid and I have been stressing, it's important to check out our website. website for more information, to watch some of the shows because they will be posted online. And again, that website is thecatholicviewforwomen.com. I'm Teresa Tomeo, along with Astrid Bennett Gutierrez and Janet Morana. And until next time, have a blessed day, and don't forget, tune in to EWTN and, of course, your next view of the Catholic View for Women. We'll see you then.